What's up, people? Jay here. Just got done watching Talking Smack, SmackDown's official after show on the WWE Network, and I'm so glad that I took out the time to watch that show before making this review on SmackDown, because honestly, watching Talking Smack made the whole friggin' night for me. If I was placed into a situation where I looked at SmackDown and saw no value in that show at all, and I mean, shit, well, judging by... You know what? We'll get there, but... yeah, if I saw no value in SmackDown at all, I'd probably still watch the show just so I can be engaged and in the know with what was being talked about on Talking Smack, because that show is so much friggin' fun. And I think that a concept like that is so necessary in this very rigid and structured environment of WWE today, where everything is so damn scripted. You actually see the performers go out there and they get to live and breathe those characters within the universe. So it's not really it's not a non-kayfabe product, but it exists in that like middle ground where it's like it's not strictly scripted, but you have the performers going out there and they could test the limitations of that character and see, okay, well, what would the character of Eva Marie say here? Or what would the character of The Miz say in this moment? And they do that live and in real time, you know. And I like it. Like, there's some magic, or, even if it doesn't rise to the level of magic. Now, like, I'm not saying that we're going to get, an Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass promo on the show. But, like, even if it doesn't extend as far as magic, like, at the very least, you're going to have fun with the show. And I definitely had fun watching it tonight. Daniel Bryan with his, him messing around with Eva Marie, and then the banter between him and The Miz. Honestly, that banter between him and The Miz trying to take credit for Daniel Bryan's career and saying that the Yes Movement wouldn't have been started without what the Miz gave to him. That was my favorite part of the whole friggin' night, including the 2 hours of SmackDown. And it's kind of funny to say that, like, my favorite part of the 2.5 hours of WWE TV tonight came on the after show that was only there for the purpose of talking about what happened on the main show. So, I mean, you take that for what it's worth. But yeah, The Miz, he was he was awesome, dare I say, on this show. They actually faded to black with him still talking trash. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And Danny Bryan, that dude is a friggin' hoot. He's a hoot and a half, actually. Like, there's just him being in that format. There's something very fun about that. And if you guys haven't checked out Talking Smack yet, definitely suggest you guys check it out. It's a very fun show, and you'll get some cool moments from it because of that loose format that the show has. Now, speaking of SmackDown in the main show, let's talk about some of the things that I saw on that show. And we're going to start off with American Alpha. They faced a local jobber tag team on the show tonight, and I have to continue to check myself before I wreck myself when it comes to these NXT acts moving their way up to the main roster. And I have to remember that things are different. They just can't be carbon copies of what happened down in NXT, and they can't retell those origin stories. As much as I want something like that to be done, it simply can't happen, because it's just a completely different monster up on the main roster. Because you had American Alpha down in NXT, they did a tour through the tag team division. We saw that team form, and then we saw them rise up the ranks, getting win after win after win with these important tag teams, and then they rose to the level of tag team champions. But we're not going to get that kind of story with them on the main roster, because hell, the very first day they were on the main roster, they solidified themselves as the top tag team in the division. And as you guys can see, shit, it's slim pickings over on the tag team division on SmackDown. We had a local jobber tag team in the ring, and those fucking jamokes, they were just as credible as any other tag team in the division other than American Alpha. So it's going to be very interesting to see how WWE balances their need to establish American Alpha while also building up the other tag teams so that they get to American Alpha's level. And that's a very interesting situation to be in, where this new tag team is already from day one on top. Like, how do you get these tag teams who have been here for a while to the point where they catch up to them? And it's going to be a very interesting task how WWE balances one and the other. And I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm willing to watch and see, what develops from this. And speaking of the development and, watching to see what happens, Eva Marie, this quest for her to actually have her spectacular debut on SmackDown Live, it continues because tonight, once again, she's affixed with an ailment that prevents her from going through with her match. This time around, her top almost fell off and her, breasts were almost spilling out, and that was interesting for them to go with that one. And yeah, just looking at that and seeing the evolution that WWE has had is over the last, 15, 16, 17 years. Because shit, this happens, your clothes are falling off and you can't start a match because of that. And shit, 16 years ago, that would have been the finish of a fucking match. With the evening gown matches and bra and panties, hell, Deborah won a championship because her clothes fell off. So, times are a-changing, I guess. And I continue to be tickled by what is going on with Eva Marie. And I continue to be perplexed by what's going on with the rest of the women's division over on SmackDown, because you have two rookies in the form of Alexa Bliss and Carmella getting wins over Becky Lynch and Natalya, respectively. And what I find interesting about this is the fact that Becky Lynch and Natalya, if you look over all of the women on SmackDown, I'd put those two at the top of the division. They're the most established out of everyone in the division, and, arguably most talented, like I said, most established in the division. So they would be the top two there. And to have two rookies come in and on their first official matches on the main roster, they defeat the top two established women in the division, it makes me look at that and say, how do they go up from here? Like, where's the development? Where's the journey that comes into play for Alexa Bliss and Carmella when you debut them in their first matches? They're beating these established women. Like, how do you go up from this point? And maybe the objective here is to establish an equal playing field for all of the women in the division, and that's an interesting, way to go about things. Like establishing an equal playing field before you bring in the women's championship and then have everyone race towards it. But yeah, I guess this is another one of those situations where I can't really attach them to what I saw down in NXT, because I looked at the stories and the journeys that Carmella and Alexa Bliss were going on, and I saw them continuing to, chip away at that top tier in NXT. Anytime they got into the ring with someone like a Bayley or one of the top tier women down in the division, they would lose those matches, but you can tell they gained something in those losses. And you knew every time they lost, every time they had one of those big moments, they would continue to chip away, and it's like, okay, they're gonna get there eventually. But I like this long form journey that of a story that they're telling for them, and you don't really get that on the main roster, because hell, in their first matches they beat the two established women in the division. And yeah, interesting choice to go with, but I guess just like the tag team division, growing pains, and we're gonna have to or at least I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I know what I am gonna do. Gotta wait it out, see what the final product is gonna be. So I guess that's all I have to say about that one. Heath Slater. There's some weird quality about Heath Slater where I look at him and it's like he's a freaking joke. There's no question about that at all. But I like to watch Heath Slater on TV. He's like, that old saying, hooker with a heart of gold? Like, he's a jobber with a heart of gold. Like, there's something that's so endearing about him that even though we're not supposed to take him seriously at all, I still like watching him on TV. I do. I think the guy is funny and entertaining, and I like this story that they're telling with him being a hard-working, free agent, and him telling the stories about his 2 kids, or what did he say after that? 4 kids? Shit, I don't know. Maybe he was, what is it? But what the fuck? Psychic. I was looking for another word. I can't even remember what that fucking word is. But yeah, maybe he's like psychic or something, and he knew at that time, like, his wife, girlfriend, significant other, or whatever, she was pregnant with twins. Like, he found that out within the conversation with Rhino. So I don't like that they're calling him a liar and stuff like that. That was not nice at all. Take him at his damn word. He's a very honorable man, that Heath Slater. So the only thing left to talk about for me is what's going on with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler, the build towards their match at SummerSlam. Now, let me go ahead and jump out and say this. I don't think that any damage was done to Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler this week, and I think that that's very important because, and I guess it's a situation where I'm going to say because and but, because those two characters, they're very damaged characters in WWE, and then when you throw in Bray Wyatt, it's kind of like you have 3 of the most damaged characters in WWE, and they've been tasked with building towards what WWE wants us to believe is a world championship match into one of the biggest shows of the year. So it's important that no damage was done, but we're in a situation where no damage being done simply isn't good enough. You have to be hitting it out of the fucking park every single week, and maybe it's a situation where those are like too lofty of expectations to be placing on them, but hell, what the hell am I gonna do? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, like, there's what happened on SmackDown. It was just paint by the numbers, very standard and formulaic booking. There was nothing exciting. There was nothing that happened tonight that really pulled me into what was going on with Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, and Bray Wyatt. And I don't know. Like, I don't even really know what to say. Like, it happened. That's all that I really have to say about it. Like, hey, it was there. Bray Wyatt, he cut a promo, to kick off the show. And what I've noticed with Bray Wyatt is that, especially now, you got to cut it with the cryptic, otherworldly bullshit. Like, I need Bray Wyatt to only talk about what's right in front of you, because when you're talking about Dolph Ziggler and what he did to you and this and that and yada yada yada, and you're talking about getting revenge on him, that's all cool. But when you attempt to expand it, to anything more than that, I don't think you have the luxury to do that right now, especially, knowing that when Bray Wyatt talks, nothing fucking happens at all. It's just empty words floating in the air. And yeah, I don't even know what really to say about this whole thing. I guess I can say the same thing with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler. They don't really have the luxury to have standard nights either, because there's a lot that's happened with those characters, to where the old story of, hey, these two guys, they're adversaries, but they're gonna team up and they have to come together to fight an even bigger foe on the other side. And if you guys can't defeat Bray Wyatt, then you may not make it to SummerSlam. That does nothing for me at fucking all. And again, I'll say wasn't necessarily bad, but I'm not jumping out of my seat based off of what's happening with Dean Ambrose. I'm not even leaning forward in my seat based off of what happened with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler. Like, the point is, you gotta make me fucking move or something. Something. Like, I can't just be sitting here watching what's going on. Move me. And I didn't get that tonight. And overall for SmackDown, they definitely were missing the presence of AJ Styles and John Cena. Like, the lack of those two stars on the show, it definitely was felt. And I didn't really get much from this show, but shit, like I said, hey, if I have to watch SmackDown just so I can enjoy talking smack a little more, that's a deal that I'm willing to make. And yeah, so I guess I'll see you guys next week talking smack and, SmackDown Live. That's it for me. See you guys on a PWF Empire Live. Until then, peace.